My name is James Orlando, and this is my evaluation approach and research design presentation. We're going to start with evaluation. What is it? Well, evaluation is born out of the need to monitor performance. Is a program working or not? Has it been a success? Evaluation allows managers to find answers to these questions. Evaluation can tell a manager where certain improvements can be made or where certain aspects of the program perhaps did not perform as well as predicted. Newcomer points out that there are contrasting opinions on how performance measurement and performance evaluation are viewed. In my opinion, the two work hand in hand, and Newcomer seems to suggest that evaluation is the bringing together of multiple performance measurements into something greater. So why do we evaluate? Well, really, it's to answer the question, is the program working, and if it is, how well? In terms of our scenario, we're going to be looking at whether the renovation of the Dinosaur Hall at the Smithsonian Natural History Museum achieved its goals that were set out beforehand or not. And really the question has become not whether to evaluate, but how, by choosing a research design. When you're choosing a research design, one of the most important elements to consider is causation. Concurrent variation means that we expect there to be a statistical relationship between two variables. In our case, it's going to be the reopening of the Dinosaur Hall and increased attendance or increased engagement and interest in STEM or paleontology opportunities. The appropriate time order of occurrence simply means that the visitors actually were exposed to our program's activities before we started to see results from the outcomes or outcome indicators. Finally, elimination of other possible explanations. This basically means that you have an understanding that your activities and program may not be the only influencing factors in your group's responses, which leads to the principle of internal validity. One of the elements that is a threat to internal validity is selection bias, and another is history, that there are other things out there that are influencing your group. Research designs consist of three factors. The timing of the measurement, making sure that the timing of the measurement allows for the most accurate reading from the group. So if there's a large time gap between the program and the measurement, people may not be able to recall or feel the same way about the elements of the program or the effect that they had on them. In terms of the Dinosaur Hall, this would dictate that the evaluation take place following the visitor's trip through the hall rather than later on. Multiple groups, in effect, mean multiple experiments. If multiple groups exhibit the same results, then it becomes more accurate and reduces the risk of an outlier. Random assignment into groups. Random assignment is ideal because it makes the groups as similar to one another as possible. There are two main types of research designs. One is randomized control, with randomly selected groups, one group that's exposed to the program and one group that isn't. These are costly, time-consuming, and in some situations are unrealistic. When a randomized control can't be achieved, because it is the optimum choice, a comparison group takes its place. It lacks the random assignment, and it relies on finding a group to be able to compare. And the groups really need to be as similar to the treatment group as possible in order for the comparison to work. Newcomer introduces 8 different types in the text, and the reason that there are so many is because accuracy is the name of the game. The way I see it is that the different types of comparison group methods are like different tools for different jobs. So speaking of different jobs, what about the one that we're facing, the scenario of the David H. Koch Hall of Fossils reopening? What would work best here? Well, random would be very difficult. The most readily available group for the museum to be able to compare would be the visitors to other museums. But by surveying visitors, they already have an affinity for the museums and for science. My suggestion would be a interrupted time series. Newcomer suggests interrupted time series in cases of new programs being started or major reforms occurring, which seems to lend itself quite well to the opening or the reopening of the Dinosaur Hall. One of the weaknesses of this method is that the groups cannot be assumed to be equivalent like what you would see in a randomized experiment, but this is a characteristic of other comparison groups as well. The other influencing factor to keep in mind is that the renovation took 5 years. There could be other factors that would affect the group in terms of interest in the sciences, and specifically paleontology, like programming on television, apps, or internet-based materials, or teaching methods at schools. But I feel that an interrupted time series design would allow for adherence to causation, that it was the opening of the dinosaur hall that impacted the results. It's a new program being started. As Newcomer points out, interrupted time series designs are good for, and we can safely make the assumption that similar data would have been collected by the Smithsonian prior to the renovation, from which a comparison can be made. By timing the assessment and survey following the visitor's trip through the hall, you ensure that there is appropriate time order of concurrence. Although other possible explanations cannot be completely ruled out, and there is potential of history, by being aware of the potential for this, the assessment and surveys can be tailored to try and avoid the influence of other factors that may have come into play during the 5 years of the renovation. Here are my references.